Hey class, my name is Owen Roberts or Professor Roberts, and this is the first video for our MMP 100 course for fall of 2025. So in this video, you can see my little rundown right here. This is just going to be kind of an intro to the course, what to expect this semester, where to find everything. We're going to look at the syllabus, we'll look at the schedule, we'll look at how to turn in assignments and a few other things. So this is just kind of a welcome overview video that I'll post on the first day of the semester. And then we'll continue posting new content every Tuesday throughout the fall semester. And so that's kind of how the class will be delivered. I'll talk about that more in a second. I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit more. So as I mentioned, my name is Owen Roberts. You can call me Professor Roberts or Professor or whatever you prefer. I've been teaching at BMCC for over 10 years, so I've been in this department and I have a lot of experience teaching these courses and working with students at BMCC. So if you have questions that are, related to the class, of course, please reach out. But if you have questions that are just kind of more generally about your career at BMCC, things that you may be curious about our department or other classes, feel free to reach out because I've been around for a while, so I kind of know the ropes to a certain extent, or at least I can point you in the right direction. Besides teaching at BMCC, I'm also an artist. I make animations and interactive work like video games and interactive music and different things like that. So if you're interested in looking at the kind of stuff that I do, my website is just owen.cool. So you can see some of my work here. I do more animation these days, but I'm also working on some games. And I like programming. I program all of the tools that I use myself. So, you don't have to look at this stuff, but if you're curious and you want to see kind of stuff that I'm working on, you can see it there. So yeah, that's my website. Let's go back to our rundown. Okay, so let's take a look at the Brightspace. This is going to be kind of the place where you're probably going to want to start to access the course materials. There's really not that much here other than the assignments, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's just open that up. So if you're on Brightspace, I'm assuming you know how to get to Brightspace. If not, send me an email and we can talk about it. If maybe if this is your first semester, you might need help getting started, but I think most of you will be able to get to Brightspace pretty quick. You can see if you're in the 2025 fall term, you should see our course here. If you're watching this video, I assume that this is where you found it. So again, if you don't see it, let me know and we can sort that out. But you're just going to click on there. And right now there's no announcements. Let me make myself a little smaller. There's no announcements right now. There's a couple of links right here. Every time I make a video or series of videos for each week, I'll post them here and along with other information about what we're up to that week. So I'll post this announcement on the first day of the semester, and then we'll go from there. There's a couple links here. We'll go over the Open Lab in a moment, and then there's going to be a YouTube playlist that collects all the videos. That obviously isn't populated yet because this is the first video, but I'll show you an example of that from last semester. There's a calendar down here where you can see kind of the due dates and what we're up to. We'll look at the schedule in a moment, so that might be a good reference for due dates, but we won't go into that too much right here. I'm going to flip this over to Learner View. So this is what it'll look like when you're logged in. Under the assignments, you see the assignments. We'll look at those in depth in a moment, and then grades. There should be, well, actually, no, there's another way to access that. Okay. Under tools, there's some links and stuff. You don't really need to use that. There's some general BMCC resources here. Those links are useful, but that's just a default. And then there's some Brightspace tech help here if you need that. If you do have issues with Brightspace, send me an email and we can probably work on it together. So that's our Brightspace. This is kind of where the announcements will come, and we'll do assignments and stuff like that. So let's talk for a moment about the structure of the class, because it is an asynchronous class. So if you've taken an async class before, you probably know basically what that means. If you haven't, it may be a very new setup for you. Async basically means that we don't have a meeting time. So I post course materials, and then you all sort of work on them in your own time. There are due dates for the course. I don't necessarily hold you very strictly to those due dates, but the due dates are there to kind of help you structure your progress through the class. And it's also a good way to kind of keep in sync with what everybody's working on. So each week there'll be an assignment. Sometimes those are short, sometimes they're bigger projects. And I'll post a video where I review everybody's work. And you guys are also going to be partly responsible for commenting and giving feedback on each other's work. And we'll do that through the Open Lab. So that's the basic setup for the class. I'll post videos where I talk about different concepts. I'm going to go over a lot of demos. So I'm going to demo a lot of software. It is a multimedia class, so that's kind of the main thing we're going to be doing, is using different software and learning about different file types and how to publish on the web and lots of stuff like that. So all of the content is going to be video based. If that's an issue for you, let me know. We can kind of talk about that, because the videos do have transcripts, so you can watch them with closed captions. Those get auto generated by YouTube. If you need notes and other things like that, we can talk about that. There is going to be opportunities for like one-on-one interaction. I have office hours, and if you want to go over stuff together, just sign up for my office hours or just email me, and we can meet on Zoom and go over things together. So even though most of the course content will be asynchronous, if you do want some real-time interactions, that's something that we can do. So yeah, one thing that's really important is just managing your time. Normally this class, as an in-person class, is a 4 credit hour class. That means we spend 4 hours in class. And the reason for that extra hour is that there's a lot of lab time. There's a lot of time to use a special software and things like that. So I think in your personal time, when you're sort of setting up how much time you want to use for this class, it's really meant to be sort of like a 3-hour class with 3 hours worth of homework, and 1 hour of that can be in the lab or in different ways. So I would, depending on your level of familiarity, a lot of people come into a course like this already being pretty familiar with some of the tools like Photoshop or maybe audio editing or something like that. You may already have a lot of these skills, or have at least some introduction to how a lot of these things work. You'll have to kind of gauge your own, level of understanding. And if you want to talk about that with me, we can do that. But I would think that everybody's going to need at least, I would say, between 3 to maybe 4, 5, 6 hours a week dedicated to the class. Definitely 3 to 4. If it's completely new to you, you might want to add an extra hour to that expectation. I would really just block it out in your calendar. I'll show you guys in my calendar. I have, I set up a calendar time. This is the time when I'm going to post a video and look at what you guys are working on, and then, do grading and all that stuff. So I have that set up in my calendar, week by week. You can create an event and make a recurring event, or, whatever. But I really recommend blocking out a specific time during your week, because we don't do that for you. So that's something that you could do on your own. But obviously you are going to be responsible for, your own progress in the course. So if you have any questions about how async classes work, please email me. We can discuss it more. Okay, next thing to talk about is tech. This is obviously a tech-based course. You do need to have some pretty specific tech available to you. You can do, I would say, a lot of the course on a laptop or maybe a tablet, but there's going to be some stuff where you're going to want, a decent computer, which if you have any issues with that, we have loaner computers that you could use. There's also labs at school that you could use. But if you don't have a computer that can run the software that we're going to be using, that will be an issue throughout the semester. So for example, if you have a Chromebook, you're not going to be able to run a lot of the software that we use. And so you might be able to do some things, but not others. So that's something that you should really think about right now. And if you have any issues or you're not sure if you have the right tech, let me know and we can discuss what you might need to use. You can see that I'm using a Mac computer right now. I am sort of both Windows and Mac and occasionally Linux user. So if you're a Windows user, which I'm assuming probably maybe half of you are, that's totally fine. All of the stuff that we're going to do will work basically the same on Windows or Mac. I tend to do Mac in the classroom because we have more Macs at school. In online context, I kind of switch back and forth. So last semester I taught using Windows. This semester I'm teaching using Mac. You can see the YouTube playlist from last semester, and I'll put a link to this in this video description. All of these videos, we cover pretty much the same thing. There'll be changes. I kind of change things up from semester to semester, but a lot of the stuff is the same. And so, if you want to see the Windows version of something, you can see it from last semester. You don't really need to do that most of the time. Most of the time, stuff is basically the same. But if you have questions, something looks different on Windows or, something like that, just let me know and we can go over it. But I am going to be on a Mac for all of the lessons for this semester. Okay, let's go to the Open Lab and take a look at that for a moment. So I'm back on Brightspace. There's a link right here to the Open Lab. If you've never used Open Lab before, that's totally fine. I'm gonna treat it as though it's a completely new thing for everybody. If you've used it before, that's great. You'll be kind of ahead of the game. But the Open Lab is basically just a WordPress blog that is maintained by BMCC. And it's a really good tool for publishing your work and being able to share your work. So in Brightspace, you can obviously submit assignments and post different types of files and things like that, but it's not publicly available. The nice thing about Open Lab is it's out in the open, it's public, so you could send stuff that you're working on to your friends. You could make a portfolio here to send to potential employers or things like that. So I like to use the Open Lab. I organize all my stuff here. The one thing that I do in Brightspace is grading, because obviously we don't want everybody's grades to be publicly available. So that's kind of the way that I break things down. The Open Lab is for all of the course content and where you guys are going to post your work, and Brightspace is where I do the grading and submitting assignments. So I'll go over posting on the Open Lab in another video. I'll make a video about making your first post. That will come a little bit later. But I just want to show you guys what it looks like. Looks like we've already had somebody join. So, I haven't even posted the first video for the class yet, but you can see that, it's easy to join, so that's cool. But yeah, there's a posts page here. This is where everybody's posts are going to be eventually. You can see this blog authors section. You can see me, and you can see Jaya Salil has joined. And so everybody, when you join the Open Lab, you'll see your name down there. And when you click on your name, you'll see all the posts that you've made. Then there's a drop down for all the topics. These are all the topics we'll cover throughout the semester. Obviously, we'll go into more detail as we get to those. But just as an example, our first topic is going to be the image topic, making a digital image. You can see these videos don't exist yet, but these are the things that we'll be covering. There's some links to different things that we'll be working on. And then there's some resources, some links to tutorials and stuff like that. And then a description of the project and how to submit. I'll go over this stuff in more detail when we work on this project, but each one of these pages has basically a breakdown of what you'll be looking at. Over here, I have a link to the syllabus, the schedule, so the week-by-week breakdown for the class, and then there'll be a link to the YouTube playlist of all the videos once that's up. So let's take a look at the syllabus. That's probably the next part of our rundown. Oh, YouTube. The YouTube playlist doesn't exist yet, but it'll go there, and it'll look like this. It'll be every video just in a row. So that's an easy way to reference it, but I'll also be sending it out on Brightspace. So let's go back to the syllabus for a second. We'll just kind of go through this. I'll try to keep this brief. I will try to make these videos as brief as possible. There are going to be a lot of videos this week because it's the first week. We have to go over a lot of new stuff. But in general, I'll try to be succinct. I'll try to make these things as quick as I can, but not leaving anything out. So here we go. Here's our syllabus. There's my email. I'll put that on Brightspace as well, but you can email me there if you want to, if you have any questions or want feedback on stuff or anything like that. Office hours for this semester is going to be Tuesday 3 to 4:30 on Zoom, Friday 10 a.m. to 11:30 also on Zoom, or by appointment. If those times don't work for you, send me an email and we'll find a time to talk. If you want to meet in person, I will be on campus sometime, during the week, sometimes this semester. So, that isn't something that normally happens, obviously, in an async class. But if you would like to meet in person, we could do that. Here's a quick description of the course. This course will introduce students to the fundamentals of multimedia production. That might not mean anything to you. Don't worry about it. Multimedia is just different types of media. In this case, we're working with digital media specifically. So we're going to make images, we're going to make audio, we're going to make video, we're going to make animation, and we're going to make 3D models, and we're going to make a website. So we're going to make a whole bunch of different stuff. We're going to learn a lot of software. We're going to learn how to publish. We're going to learn Creative Commons and copyright law and stuff like that. So we're going to cover a lot of stuff. Bunch of student learning outcomes, not super important, but if you have questions about those, let me know. There's no required textbook for this class. All the materials will be either online or in the videos. There's a bunch of materials and stuff available here. That's pretty much that. Use of technology. We are going to be using a lot of software in that class. So we're going to be using a lot of Adobe Creative Cloud software, including Photoshop, Adobe Animate, and then we'll be using a software called Audacity for editing audio, and we'll be using some other software as well throughout the semester. All of that software is going to be available to you for free, so you don't have to worry about purchasing any software. And the software is also on the computers in our labs on campus. So if you want to use stuff on campus, you can do that. We're going to be using Brightspace for submitting and grading assignments. Everything else is on OpenLab. This is the info for the service desk at BMCC. If you have an issue with your login, with your email or anything else, this is where you can go. You are going to obviously need to be able to log into your email to use OpenLab and Brightspace and everything like that. So if you have any issues with that, you should try to get them resolved as soon as you can. Here's a breakdown of the grading. So there's a 10% of your final grade is teacher evaluation and class performance. This is obviously something that kind of comes in at the end, but this is mainly based on your progress throughout the class. So there's going to be an opportunity to give feedback to your classmates. A big part of the grade is just, are you consistent in giving feedback to other students? If you don't comment on other students' work and you don't give feedback, then you'll lose some points there. If you obviously just never submit anything and don't show up for class, you'll lose some points there. Beyond that, if you turn in the assignments on time and you give feedback to your classmates, you'll be fine there. Blog posts are 30%. There's a number of blog posts that we're going to be doing week by week to sort of show your progress, and those lead into different projects. So the overall grade that you get for all of those blog posts is 30%. Those blog posts are basically did you do it or not? So we'll look at the rubrics in a little bit, but they should be basically, it's not based on the quality of the post. It's just based on did you do it and did you do it correctly? So that should be an easy 30 points for everybody. Then there's going to be 5 projects, and each one is worth 12% of your grade, or 60% total. So each project is a separate piece of media that you're going to create, and we'll basically just do one every 3 weeks throughout the semester. Quick policy on generative AI. This is a new thing that we're all adding into our syllabi, so I'll go over this real quick. Of course, if you have any questions about this, please ask, because this is something that, it's generative AI, and by that I mean ChatGPT and services like that. It's only been around for a couple of years, so us faculty are all still getting used to it. Of course, we all have different attitudes about it. I use AI a little bit. I don't use it maybe as much as some people. I probably use it more than most people. This class is not about AI, and so you don't really need to use AI for this class, but I do want to talk about it because I know that a lot of you guys use it in your day-to-day life for different tasks and things like that, and that's that's fine. Again, you don't have to use it. There's no requirement to use it, but if you are going to use it, these are kind of the rules for how to do it. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me about it. In general, it's acceptable to use generative AI in this class if it's for your ideation process or for helping you with documentation. It's not acceptable to use it to generate the media that you're creating for the projects. That would kind of defeat the purpose of the class because we're learning how to create media. You may think, hey, AI can generate an image, so why should I be able to do it? That's a complex question and one that I'm happy to talk about more, but the whole point of this class is to understand how media actually works. And if we're generating stuff with AI, we're going to not have to understand it as well. That doesn't mean that generating media with AI is necessarily bad, but it really just depends on the context. So it's also going to be harder to do that in this class because I'm going to be looking for very specific things in your assignments. So, it's not going to be as useful to use AI in a lot of contexts. If you make specific requests, if you say like, hey, I have this really specific idea and I think AI would be useful, send me an email. I'm very open to talking about different ideas, especially if they're enabling your creativity. So again, some just clear examples. So when you're writing blog posts, if you want to use AI to help you format or just describe what your post is about, that's totally fine with me. You don't need to tell me or worry about that. When you're working on an idea for your project, if you want to go on ChatGPT and say like, hey, what's a good idea for an image project that involves XYZ things, that's totally fine. Obviously, if you're just going on there and saying, hey, give me an idea for a project and you just do it, that's not really that useful, but that's going to be your own sort of approach, and what you get out of the class obviously is going to be what you put into it. Some examples of when not to use generative AI. So you shouldn't be generating images basically at all unless I give you specific permission to do so. Generating a voiceover or voice recording for an audio project, same deal. You shouldn't be doing that. If you want to do it and you have a specific reason for it, I'm open to it, but generally I'm probably going to say no. Generating a script for your audio project, it's just going to be boring. Let's just be real. I don't want to listen to AI generated scripts. You don't have to. There's no requirements for any scripts, but in our audio project, you'll be able to make an audio narrative, and you might want to write a script for that. If you're just going to do an AI script, just do something else because I don't want to listen to it unless it's really good. But again, if you have a specific reason for it, let me know and we can talk about it. A few other policies, just general BMCC policies. I won't go into too much detail here because this is on all of our syllabi for all of our classes. But obviously, class participation is important. We don't have an attendance policy here, but your grade is based on your participation. For me, that's going to be giving feedback to other students, making good progress throughout the semester, demonstrating that you're working hard on your projects. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Policy on plagiarism, pretty straightforward. Plagiarism is a presentation of someone else's ideas, words, or artistic, scientific, technical work as one's own creation. This usually, I very rarely have issues with this, but occasionally students will turn in work that is either pretty obviously something that they didn't make, or whatever. And most of the time what I'll do is I'll say, I don't think you made this, and you have to do it over. But if you have any questions about sometimes people want to collaborate with other people and things like that, I'm open to those ideas, but it just needs to be clear to me what part of the project you actually did. If that's not clear, then I'm just not gonna bother with it. So hopefully that's straightforward. That includes the AI stuff as well. Technically, if you're submitting stuff that's AI generated, that's not your own creation. So if you're not citing that, if you're not documenting it properly, that would still be considered plagiarism. Gender inclusivity. Let me know if you have preferred pronouns or a nickname or name that you prefer I use, and I will do that. Any other issues with that, let me know. There's a bunch of services, the ARC Center, Counseling Center, Tutoring Center. Tutoring Center is really good. We have a good tutor for this course, so if you need help with anything, obviously you can reach out to me, but if you want to work with another student, we have some good tutors for this course. Office of Accessibility, if you need any learning accommodations, that's the place to start, and they will communicate with me. We don't have tests and papers in this class, so there won't be a huge difference there, but it is a good thing to use if you want to. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's continue. This video is getting pretty long, so I don't want to bore you guys. Maybe I already am, hopefully not, but that's the syllabus. If you have any questions about any of that, of course, let me know. Let's move on to the schedule. I'm not going to spend as much time here, but I just want you guys to see what this looks like, so that, as we go through the semester, you'll know what to look for. So I'm going to post, since the semester starts on a Tuesday this fall, I'm going to post every Tuesday unless there's like a change in the schedule. And there are a few like Tuesdays that we have off. And so just to kind of keep things aligned with the rest of your academic schedule, I'm going to, sort of observe those holidays as well. Assignments will be due the following Monday by the end of the day so that I can review it on the Tuesday. The one exception to that is next week we have Labor Day. And so, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are going to be traveling and doing stuff like that. So I just extended the deadline for that by 1 day. So you'll have an extra day to turn that in. So each week, it has the date of when I'll post stuff. Each of these is a Tuesday. I don't think there's any weird like Tuesday on a Friday or Tuesday on a Monday, but there are some days off. So like I think, yeah, between September 16th and September 30th, there's a week missing there. Let's see if there's any others. There's Thanksgiving is in there somewhere. I guess that might be it. But yeah, if there's a holiday, I'll do the holiday. So each week, I'll have what we're working on that week, and then what you have due, and that's pretty much it. There's not really. It's just a couple things for each week. So you can see everything that we're going to be doing there. But we also have the deadlines and assignments on Brightspace, so you can use that as a reference as well. So yeah, that's our open lab. Let's continue. So let's take a look at the assignments, and then we'll wrap up this video because it is getting to be long. As I said earlier, I'm going to kind of try to keep these videos short, but we have a lot to go over this week, so they're going to be a little bit longer than usual. Okay, so back on Brightspace. So under assignments, you can see all of the assignments. So the first top area is the blog posts. These are just weekly blog posts. I'll go over how to do this in another video, but it's pretty straightforward. And as I mentioned earlier, you're not getting graded on the quality of the work. It's more about just doing the work. And so each assignment is going to have like a specific thing that you're being asked to do. And then they all have these rubrics. So the rubrics show you how many points you get for each component of the assignment. So for the blog post, you get 5 points for publishing the post. Pretty easy. You get 10 points for embedding the media that you created on the post, and then 10 points for submitting the file that you used to make it. And then writing, I do want you to actually write. I don't want to see blog posts with like no words or just like 2 words. Like part of learning how to create multimedia is also explaining what you created and why. So you don't have to write a lot, but for each post, there should be a 1 or 2 sentence description about what you made, and then I will be grading based on writing. So if it's like totally agrammatical and doesn't make any sense, I'm going to take points off for that, because making media is, there's a technological component to it, but it's also just thinking, and we need to be able to communicate. So writing is very important. 2 points for the link. This is just because people often don't submit the way I want them to, so I'm going to take off points if you don't do it. But this is basically like, did you submit the link correctly? And if you did, you get 2 points. This should be free points. You are going to have to add files to the assignments. I'll go over that later, and then you can submit the link in the comments. That's what the assignments look like. So there's 9 blog posts, and then there's 5 projects. So you can, our semester is 15 weeks long. So there's 14 things that you have to submit. The projects are kind of similar. You're going to make a post, you're going to submit some files, but there's a little bit more, I'm grading a little bit more based on the quality of the projects that you made. So I'm going to be grading based on the design of the composition, how good your post looks, all that kind of stuff. So that's what those look like. And you can see the due dates here. I think those are all right. Sometimes I get those off by a little bit. If anything looks weird, just let me know, but they should be the right due dates. And then down here, the projects. So some of the projects are kind of mixed in with some of the blog post assignments. But yeah, I think all these due dates are right. I just added these. If you see anything that looks weird, just let me know. And then your grades will appear in this grades section. I don't know what this is going to look like. Okay, so you'll just see your grades. The way that I have Brightspace set up is that if you miss a deadline, it's going to assign you a 0. That does not mean that you got a 0 on the assignment. You just need to submit it. So just make sure that if you see a 0 on there, don't freak out. It's just a way for me to let you know that you're missing an assignment. Otherwise, we get to the end of the semester and people are still seeing that they have an A, but they only submitted 2 assignments. So I don't want you guys to think that you're doing, that you're not missing assignments. A lot of you guys are going to freak out when you see a 0 and, email me, and that's fine. I'll explain it again. But if you see that, that's what's happening. Okay, I think that's our whole rundown. Sorry, this video is a little bit long, but we've covered everything that I want to cover. There are going to be a bunch of videos this week. In the next video, I'm going to go over some stuff about digital images. We're going to use Photoshop, and then we're also going to learn how to post. So all of this stuff, this week is going to be heavy on content and me talking in these videos. But subsequent weeks will be a lot more less of me talking, more of you working on stuff. So again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video.